Hello, it's Friday and we're here. I'm here today. I'm Yanko, and this is No Particular Reason, episode 20. Now, usually I do this with my co host, Carrie Lois, who is in addiction and mental health, but she's running late a little bit today. So I figure I'll start by myself and see where this goes. And because the show it's called for no particular reason, I'm going to see what I'm going to talk about today because usually we don't plan those things ahead of time. So my specialty is hypnotism, and I usually enjoy talking about hypnosis. So I'll start there. I've been thinking and communicating with other people when I go to holistic healing shows about the power of hypnosis. And I've been talking about hypnosis a lot with different people when I have opportunity to talk about hypnosis and what hypnosis really is all about and what hypnosis is. And um, it sounds like a mystery topic to a lot of people. And even if you ask hypnotists or hypnotherapists what hypnosis is, they'll usually give you a different concept or a different naming for the whole process or description for it. And so the last time I was asked um, the following topic because I enjoy doing hypnotic regressions to past life and life between life regressions. So somebody come on to me and somebody come and asked me the following question: is regression a hypnosis? And so I had to answer it that the following way: hypnosis is the process that gets you into outer state, a state where the deeper mind is open to suggestions and can relay information back and forth. Where the regression, it's the actual retriever of the information that comes in when you regress somebody to a previous life. And there is different states of minds, and usually the hypnotic state of mind, it's a natural state of being that occurs many different times during the day, but most people are not aware of that particular state of mind where there might be daydreaming or thinking of something or just kind of interiorize the whole process. And so when that occurs, everything else continues to happen. Like you drive your car down the street, or um, you're shifting gears if you're driving a manual on the body, and everything follows the road, and you're not, you know, checking out completely um, because there is the thinking mind that does all the calculations and everything for you, and then there is the underlying deeper mind. And I read somewhere that you can compare it to a rider on an elephant. If the rider of the elephant is your thinking mind um, that tells the elephant where to go, then the elephant will be your deeper mind where it receives the commands or the intent, and then it goes and does what it does and takes the road, or steps forward or backwards, and then it relays back to you what you were willing to, what you ask it to do. um, so in a way, um, they're always connected, and there's always connection in between the rider and the elephant, your mind and your deeper mind. And so when you're hypnotized, you're not really checked out. And then it's another misconception. I was thinking about doing a video, which I'll do probably a separate video where I'll talk about definitions, which are more in technical terms, but this is unplanned. So um, your deeper mind helps complete the surface mind or your ego mind, which makes the decisions and other things, or sends that uh, information, and it's a sharing process, like both are connecting and exchange information. And at any given point, I want to remind our viewers or whoever it's following our show, if you have any questions or anything you like to ask, please do. We get a chat box here pop-ups, and I can bring your question or answer any questions. Um, and so that we can make this more engaging. Because I like to talk about hypnosis, but it'll be a lot more fun if I can be of any kind of service to you and help you answer any questions while I'm doing this and while I'm waiting on Kiri to show up and come online. So back to what was I saying? Yes. So a lot of times you might have a moment where um, you forget something and you were thinking like, oh, why can't I think about it? And a lot of times I do the same thing. Sometimes I have a thought or I'm going somewhere with a conversation, and then I forgot what I was talking about, and then I'll just simply say to myself, "I'll come back to me," which it usually does. Usually the information comes back to me, and I'll remember what I left off. And so, in a way, when you forget something or you want your mind to experience or help you in a way to experience something, you can ask it and give it a task. Just like the rider of the elephant can ask the elephant to do something, you can say, "Hey, what was my password? I just don't remember what was that." Or you want to have a memory that you forget about, and it's just kind of like sending the request that goes deeper, and then it takes the time to come back and you know give you that information. You might not get that information right away because he has to work his way to find what you're really looking for and how you're looking for that information. And you might just have like a aha moment, kind of like, and that's also applies to problem solving. So if you're having a problem and you want to solve it and you're looking for a solution of your problem, then you can send that request to your um, deeper mind and ask it for a solution. And the deeper mind will go back and look for all the memories and everything else that you experienced through life and offer you a solution, or maybe offer you a couple of solutions for the problem that you're having. Um, and that might not be instant. It might come within minutes, or it can come to you in an hours, or maybe in a days. But when you experience it, you know it. And most of you probably experienced that once or twice in life when you have like the aha moment. You're like, oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like I was looking for that solution, but here it is. And usually that happens when you're not occupied doing anything. You're just kind of like sitting and doing nothing, which makes me want to talk about meditation now. And a lot of the times here in the show, we talk about meditation or mindfulness or any kind of like different types of meditation, because there's just like in the hypnosis world, there is different types of definitions you can use to describe the process. After all, and it's something that we give name to, which is meaningful to us, because what it's meaningful to me, it might not be meaningful to you, or it might mean something else altogether. When you start to think about a process or anything really in particular that has a meaning to you. So, in a way, meditation, to go back to what I was talking about, to me in the beginning, it meant to that just sit and do nothing. And then your mind starts to wander and starts to give you different explanations of like, or different reasons not to do it really, because it's boring. The mind, it's like, it wants to do things. It can't stay idle. In some of the Eastern literature, they talk about the monkey mind that just jumps and jumps and jumps and does this thing and wants to help you and entertain you or keep you busy, which also drains your energy because the thinking process drains a lot of energy. And not only the thinking process, but like different emotional processes can drain energy out of you. And so in the beginning, it's just jumping and doing different things. Is that and that's really not meditation. But I thought it was meditation where you just kind of sit and do nothing. Um, and in a way, that makes you be aware of your thoughts or what's going on inside. Because if you're just sitting and doing nothing, you automatically start to observe the whole process of like what's going on in the mind. Like, what are those thoughts coming and being about? Or like you might even ask yourself this question like, why am I having this thought? Um, and if you go even deeper, you might want to, because it won't be evident right off the bat. You might not like, you know, become aware of them in their repeating thoughts. Usually, because it's like, okay, let's get this done, let's get this done. Have you pay your bills? Have you done this and that or whatever? So, um, in a way, those are repeating thoughts, and most people are not like aware of their thoughts or what's going on in the mind. And for some people, it's hard to just sit idle and just observe and do nothing. But that's just kind of like a byproduct of not doing anything because, like, if your eyes are open, you're just observing. So, and most people are visual to bring that up. I mean, some people are more kinesthetic, and some people have other abilities or they're just having different ways to experience the world. But the visual people, even with the eyes closed, they'll start to visualize different things right off the bat. They'll be visualizing, maybe memories that are coming in, or thoughts or patterns. And some might even experience colors, which is kind of strange. But that also happens. And so uh, that's more of a observing where the thoughts are going, and then if you continue to do that for a while in not attaining to those thoughts or like entertaining the thoughts that are coming up, usually you'll get they'll subside and you'll have moments when there isn't like very many thoughts that are coming in, but that's kind of like usually like when you're clearing your space. It's kind of the same way. And if you continue to just sit and observe what's going on within, you'll get to go back to like maybe a week ago that you had some thoughts, or maybe like you start to see patterns come up, and you might even get thoughts that weren't relevant or not relevant at this time, but maybe they were there. Like you probably thought about him like a month ago, or 2 months ago, or even 6 months ago, um, which is weird. But you will start noticing gaps in between what's going on internally and thought process, because like anything that hasn't been resolved, or your mind, to go back to what I was saying about the elephant, like if your mind sends it to the deeper mind, and the deeper mind will come up with a solution, or I'll repeat the thought, I'll remind you, and do wonderful things. um, it's kind of like if you're going for a trip on the next day, or you have an event, or you have to be somewhere, and you give it that information, um, it'll start waking you up in the middle of the night to like, hey, is it time yet? Like, maybe you'll be late for whatever you're going. And the other thing about that is that the deeper mind, does not experience time the way we experience time, because um, the thinking mind experience time linearly from past to future, and you're always moving instead of like everything happen all together. And so in a way, when you're having a, how do I say that, things that are happening like dreams, when you're dreaming, it might feel like in the dream the time passed or very long time has passed. It might have been like days or months, but then the reality is, if that happened to you, like let's say the dream happened to you because you wake up, like say you were going to go and have like early morning meeting, or you needed to get up really early to go work out, and your deeper mind wake you up and it's 4 a.m., but it's not time yet. So you go back and you fell asleep, and then it's 4 a.m. And then you have a dream. And then in the dream, you might experience that weeks have passed and you've been at a place or something has happened and it's been a very, very long time. And then you wake up and you look at the clock again, and it's only a couple of minutes. It might be 4:05, but in your dream, because the deeper mind that helps you manifest all your dreams and everything else, that might have felt like weeks or months or even years. And so it doesn't do it's helping you do what it's supposed to, but it doesn't perceive time the way you perceive time. So if you say, "All right, Michin, well, I'm getting ready to, get some sleep right away, and have enough sleep to get up in the morning, and I don't want to be late," then it might wake you up a couple of times because it doesn't experience time the same way it does, where the thinking mind does. And so, in a way, when you are in an outer state of being, to go back to daydreaming or just being checked out, you're not experiencing time the same way, because now instead of being focused outside, you're focused inside, and you're working with, you're becoming the deeper mind, you're becoming the elephant. It's, you might have that um, no time experience, or it might seem like a very long time has passed. And the same works with hypnosis, because hypnosis is the instrument that gets you in the outer state of mind where you're connected with the deeper mind. And so anything that happens, it's, time bends, and it might feel like a very long time, a very short time. So a lot of times when I work with people, at the end of the session, I ask them and I say, "Well, how long do you think this has been going for?" Or what do you think? How long have you think has been? Or like, how long do you think this took? Or whatever. And they usually tell me, "Oh, a very long time." Or they say, "I don't know. It doesn't. I can't really tell, because when you're in that state of mind, time doesn't really exist." So to go back to what I was talking about in the beginning, to connect that with meditation, you're sitting and there's no time, and things are just happening. You get to be aware that your thoughts are not your thoughts, they're just something that happens from within the deeper mind. They just kind of self manifest because you're sending those during the day. um, well, not the thoughts, but you're given a tasks to do. You say, "All right, let's go and find me a solution for that," or anything. And it doesn't really have to be anything related to um, problem solving. It could be emotional things. It could be something that you watch on the TV and you had a concern about it, and you kind of ask yourself, "Well, why did the character have to die this way?" or whatever, and that goes in. And when the idling stops, which is the chatter that goes from the surface or your ego mind to the deeper mind, then it does its thing and you have those come up. So they're not, something that you really can control, you can observe, because or you, the personality, send that information to it, and then now it comes up with the answer. So really, the thoughts that are coming in are mostly like, hey, you asked for this, here it is. Does it work? Does it not work? And then the more you entertain those thoughts, the more you get entangled with like what's going on. So it's tricky to be able to just observe. A lot of times I tell people when they ask me like what it is like really, and it's almost like observing traffic. You're just, if the cars or your thoughts, and you're just sitting by the side of the road, not really doing anything, but just observing the traffic. You just see the cars passing by, and you're not getting involved in thinking of like, huh, what a wonderful car. I wonder if I should buy one of those or something else. You just kind of see the one come in and say, oh, okay. And another one comes in. Maybe there is a bus with a school bus that passes on, and you say, huh. You don't really like go in details and say, "Hey, maybe I don't like the color of the bus or anything." You're not really engaging with the thoughts. They're just come and go, come and go. And then as you're observing those thoughts, you're going to start to notice the space in between the thoughts, how it's like expanding, expanding, and it gives you more silent spaces in between. And this make me think about um, a wonderful um, idea that I read somewhere. I can't recall where exactly, but it was about music. So for music to exist, it can be all tones or vibrations at all time. There has to be silent spaces in between the notes, for the tempo and for the music to happen. So when music is happening, there is silences and tones which put the whole piece together, which comes up as a melody or something you're watching. So in a way, the thoughts are kind of the same way. There's spaces in between the thoughts, when there's nothing going on, and then there's the thoughts. But because you tend to focus on the thoughts, you ignore the space in between the thoughts, kind of like how the music is played, because your attention goes to the tones and how they're changing, and they're creating the rhythm, but you're not really concentrating in the silence between each note. You're concentrating in the opposite, and therefore you're viewing the whole piece as like a one, but ignoring the silence in between. So that's kind of a tricky when you meditate, because most people are not aware there is a silence between their thoughts, and they say, well, I always have thoughts. And that's another thing I experienced. There's people that are in that category where they say, well, this always happens to me, and there's always this, and there's always thoughts in my mind or something, and they're just focusing their attention in the thoughts instead of the silence between the thoughts. But if you observe the thoughts for a long period of time, you're gonna come to a conclusion that there are silences in between the thoughts, and then the thoughts are not your thoughts because they're coming up automatically, because you can't predict your thoughts. Usually you can say, I'm just going to have these thoughts in the next 3 seconds or whatever, and it doesn't work that way, and you can try it. You can give it a go, try to predict your net thought, and you're going to find out you can't predict what really is going to come up as a thought in your mind. And that brings me in another um, idea that I can um, share as an experience, is if like if you're watching a um, certain media or whatever you put in, that's what you get out. To go back to what I was saying originally in the beginning, as a um, like the writer and the elephant, how the writer tells the elephant what to do, it's kind of the same way. What you put in, that's what you get out. So if you're putting a lot of noise, you're going to get a lot of noise out. And And that comes to thinking of like what you're really consuming during your day to day. Because a lot of people are not even mindful of like what they're consuming. Because to me, um, it was interesting to find out that if I stop watch Netflix for a while or certain shows I wanted to see as an experiment, what the mind will be giving me in return, what kind of thoughts I'll be getting in return, or how much noise or garbage I'm going to get in return from the deeper mind that'll come back. And in and that usually was kind of interesting experience to be able to see people that are into sports and like to experiment with their body and do different activities to say build muscle or um, build flexibility or just functional fitness altogether. It doesn't happen right away. They have to experiment with different exercises, different foods, different way of living to be able to find what they're looking for in terms of like experience. So with meditation, it's kind of the same way. If you start to experiment with um, how your mind works and what are you getting in and out, you realize that uh, a lot. I talk about the gas, but then you're going to realize about the repeating patterns, and then you're going to realize that a lot of the things that are coming up are from things that you put in, like whatever you consume is information, either books, Facebook, movies, or conversations with people that you're having on daily day basis. Those will come up, and you're going to have different thought patterns that are coming up. And so that brings me into another thought or idea that I read somewhere where I was saying that people usually meditate in the morning and in the afternoon, well, not afternoon, but like when they get up from sleep and when they go to sleep, before they go to sleep. And it was perfectly explained, which made sense to me. I don't know if it'll make sense to you, but I'll just say it. The the person that was giving that explanation was asking somebody um, the following way. He said to that person that was asking him about like why would people meditate when they get up in the morning and why would they meditate before they go to sleep? And he answered the following way. He said, well, when you before you go to sleep, you take off your clothes because they're dirty. You wear them the entire day, and you set them aside, and you put your pajamas or new clothes in, and you go to sleep, right? And he says, yeah. And he goes like, well, when you get up in the morning, also because you've been sweating or whatever the entire night, you take your pajamas or the dirty clothes and you put new clothes on, and you go with your day, right? He says, yeah. I said, well, in the same way, it happens with your thoughts. You've been consuming certain media, dirtying the mind during the day. And so before you go to sleep, so that you can have a restful sleep and be able to relax and not have repeating thoughts or anything at all. I mean, what comes to mind right now, it's people that are struggling with like um, planning for the next day, or managers and companies or people that are supposed to do inventories and other things. They go to sleep and that keeps on going and they can't fall asleep. And they say, well, I'm having a hard time falling asleep because I'm just having all this information, it's shattering and it's going in the mind. Well, that's pretty much it. You've been consuming all this information and you're giving your deeper mind all this information as tasks to help you solve problems, and then when you want to turn it off, it doesn't turn off. So in a way, before you go to sleep, as the example I was giving you, you cleanse that information, you clean your mind, and then you go and you have wonderful sleep. And then during your sleep, if something comes up that hasn't been resolved and you have a dream, and that usually happens because that was another thing I was going to bring up, and I'm glad that I just thought about it. Your deeper mind does not understand language, and um, math and other things like that. It relates to emotions and images and other things like that. It'll give you feelings, it'll show you different things that you can relate to. And if you're one of the people that likes to journal the dreams, you probably know that a lot of the times when you have somebody that comes in, or maybe you have a friend that does a certain thing, and that friend comes in your dream, and that friend represent whatever your deeper mind wants to tell you, because that friend, for example, has been sick for cancer. Let's put it this way. And so now you're thinking, well, why am I dreaming of him? He's already gone or whatever. But what does my mind want to represent by bringing him in my dream? And it's not him specifically, but it's the idea that he was sick from cancer. Like your mind wants to tell you, hey, this is what I want to relate to you related to cancer with somebody else that might be in your um, friend or somebody else that might also going through cancer at the same time. So in a way, your deeper mind will give you images, feelings, emotions, sensations, where your thinking mind will give you the logic, time, perceiving time, um, a language, other things like that. And to circle back to the meditation, I kind of went aside, talking about dreams. But to go back to what I was talking about, meditation now, it's not doing anything and not not thinking, because there could be thoughts in the mind, which brings me to um, the next definition of meditation that some people have or think that's what meditation is: concentration. Because now with so much information out there, and I'm not saying I'm like I know definite answers for that. I'm just sharing my experience and what I thought or conclusions I made based on the experience I have. That concentration, it's also not meditation, because now you're forcefully forcing your mind to do something against as well. So you're sitting and you're concentrating at the camera, for example, instead of, you know, just observing of like your surrounding or whatever else that's been going on. To go back to what I was saying originally, because like if you sit to meditate and there's the thoughts and they're coming up and you're observing the thoughts, and you can also have the same thing when you're walking, because some people say walking meditation, because like I want to walk and I just want to be alone with my thoughts when I'm walking. And it's kind of the same thing, because like the body does the thing, one foot goes on the front of the other foot, and the body it's moving. There is a walking, um, scenery changes, but you're not really in the environment that's happening. um, but it supports you on the same time because it's quiet. Instead of finding a quiet room and sitting on not doing anything, now you're doing something. You're not actually doing it. The body it's moving, but you're within observing the thoughts. So when people say, I just want to go on a walk and be by myself with my thoughts, that's what they really mean. Like they're just going, they're internalizing, they're within, observing the thoughts that are coming in. Um, and then the body is doing its thing, kind of like breathing, because you can breathe consciously or you can breathe unconsciously, which happens automatically. Because if you're also If you're always concentrated on your breathing and you're always um, or you want to control your breathing and be in control consciously of your breathing, if you forget to breathe, then you'll die. So if you're not conscious of your breathing, then the breathing happens unconsciously. The same way the body grows your hair and digests the food for you and does other things that you're not aware of. So, walking could be a meditation because the body does this thing. It's walking. You're in nature and you're in the world, but you're not in the world in that moment. You're within, observing the thoughts that are going on. And in the same example I was giving is, daydreaming, driving down the road with your car and changing gears if you're driving manual. It's kind of the same way. If somebody it's in the path when you're walking, you're not gonna you're not gonna bump into them and be like a mindless zombie just walking in the forest. You sense it. The deeper mind, it's aware of everything else that's going around, and it's going to step aside. You might be aware of like a biker behind you, passing with the bike, or sometimes they do the little ringer on their bikes where they say to the left or to the right, and you're just kind of walking, and all those things come to your awareness, but you're at that time you're just observing everything else that's going on. You're not actually outside, you're inside and you're doing the meditation. But to go back to what I was saying, um, about focusing. So focusing, because there's practices that I've read about and tried, is just keeping your attention in one spot and not allowing your mind to wander. You're not actually allowing that you know monkey mind to jump from branch to branch or from idea to idea or something else. And it's the opposite of watching the traffic go, like the example I was giving. If you're just sitting and you're observing what's going on with your surrounding, you're not really um, interacting much, you're not concentrating. So you're not in a way sitting and not um, well, you're still not doing anything, but you're not allowing the mind forcefully to go anywhere. Because anytime a thought will come up, you refocus and you bring your awareness to the camera, like I do right now, or whatever you're focusing on. Some practices, they focus in a candle, or they sit and they stare at the flame and they only focus on the flame, and they're not allowing anything else to come into their mind, and just silencing the mind that way. But in my experience, anything forceful, it's hard to do because now you're going against this nature and you're forcing it to do something that it wasn't supposed to do. Kind of like trying to swim against the current. But it works. When I was experimenting with a practice um, that I've read somewhere, I'll describe the practice real quick to you. Maybe it'll be an interest. If you've been hanging on so long, watching me, you're probably gonna appreciate me sharing that with you. So here goes. The practice was something. It needed a point of focus, like I was talking about the candles before. But the focus point, it's a clock. So you look, and you can do it anywhere where there's clocks. You look at like and it has to be an analog clock that actually has the digits from 12 to 11 all around, because you sit and you concentrate at 12 o'clock, and you breathe in and breathe out, and if no thought comes in, you move your focus in one, and then you do the same thing, and then you focus on two, breathing in and out, and then if there's no thought, you move it to the next number. And if there is a thought, you reset and you go back to 12. So every time you do, in a way, you're not verbally counting inside your mind saying 12, 1, and so on. You know there is time that passed in between when you're focusing and you're keeping your focus in each digit. And when you get to a point to forcefully not think of anything, going for 12 seconds with every breath, then you can do this once again, and you'll get to a point when there will be just no thought. It'll just be blank mind. You'll be breathing, the eyes will be moving. It's kind of like being asleep almost. It's a weird feeling. When it happened to me, it was just as how do I explain that? It was just like no mind, um, which brings me to the last point of the whole meditation. But there's no thought. There's only presence. You're present, and there is breathing going on. There is observing, concentration on numbers, and the whole thing is happening. But there's no feelings. There's no thoughts. It's very, very strange experience when there's no thoughts in your head. Um, the only way I can describe it is that if you're accustomed to a noise, say you're sleeping or your apartment is close to a busy street and there's a lot of traffic that's going on passing by, or another one, that's even better. I see that happen close by all the time. Right behind me, there is a railroad track that goes to a yard where they connect all the wagons and everything else. And there's always freight trains going by, and they always blow their horns. And it's really noisy. And if you're living in one of those apartments, you can hear it constantly. And because it's there, in a way, you train your mind to ignore all those sounds so that you can sleep. Because if you haven't been accustomed to those sounds, you're not going to be able to fall asleep right away. It'll bother you the first couple weeks or even a month, or you might not even be able to live in that kind of apartment and say, screw it, I'm just going to find another place. But once you get accustomed to the sound and the noise, then you're gonna find out that it's something natural and something normal that just happens and you're not even aware of it. It's there, but it's in the background. But you're not. It doesn't really bother you. It's just kind of like, eh. But then once you get in the habit of having that, and then say you've been doing that for 2 years or 3 years, and you really train your mind and everything else to ignore it really good. Now, because you conditioned that way, say you go on vacation somewhere in nature and there's no sounds, it's dead quiet. You get there and you can't fall asleep because that's becoming a normal now, because you're being conditioned to have all those noises that been going on around. And now something it's missing, you're going to sleep, but it's quiet, and it's weird because you're used to all that noise, and now all of a sudden there's no noise. So in a way, that's the best way I can explain how it is with the mind when that happens to you, when there's no thought, and it's dead quiet, and it's unusual. It's just like when you experience it. When I experienced it, it was just like I had to snap out of it, like out of that state, because it just felt like weird, because it wasn't something that I've done like in a long time. It wasn't something that I'm doing on a daily basis. But to circle back to meditation, when that happens and Either way, you do it forcefully or unforcefully, like you're observing the thoughts, or you're focusing and not allowing the mind to move in any direction, and you get to the point when there's no thought. That's what actually meditation is. It's no thought, not doing, not sitting, not observing, not fantasizing, not planning, because that could also be a thing. And some people, and that's also a thing that might be helpful to some, where they are overloaded with a lot of things that are going in life, and they just want to check up and go to La La Land. They want to have a fantasy about a vacation, or buying a new home or something, and that's perfectly fine. You can take the mind out of whatever it's doing, but that's not actually meditation. That now becomes a fantasy, because now you're using the mind to create different things instead of observing the mind or the thoughts, or no mind at all, where there's nothing going on. Now you're just creating things in your mind. You might be fantasizing about different houses or different vacations or different things like that. So it's kind of a weird thing to experience. At least to me, it was a weird experience when I first had it. And so, if I have to give somebody a definition of what meditation is, that'll be the definition of meditation: when there's no mind, there's just presence. You're fully present, and you're observing what's going on. Um, Not really observing, but things are happening, and there's no thoughts. You're not reacting. There's no emotion. There's nothing. It's just kind of like being in the world, but not from the world. It's a weird way to be, and that's pretty much it. I don't know if Kiri will be coming, but we're close to 50 minutes as I've been talking about meditation and explaining my point of view of what meditation is and what it's not. Um, so, with that, I'll probably wrap it up. And thank you for watching. If you stick around for so long, I really appreciate you watching the videos. And not only me talking, but like our show for no particular reason. We talk about anything and everything, whatever we aspire to talk about. And hopefully, some of those things that we share with you, the audience, will be beneficial to you or anybody else. If you like anything that you've seen here and you like it, you can share with your friends. If you think somebody will benefit from what we're talking about here, please share it. Um, like our stuff. That'll really help the algorithm places on the front of our audience that can benefit from what we're talking about. And comment and engage with us. We'll be happy to talk to you about anything that you curious about. Uh, and Your liking or your feedback, it's very important to us because that help us understand where we can take our show to, so that we can best serve you, the viewer, and bring you some wonderful information going forward in vibe with you. So with that, I'm gonna wish you a wonderful weekend because it's Friday and the weekend's coming in. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next week. Bye.